Welcome to the Likes and Cash podcast, boys. Today's we cover good stuff. We cover whale bait. We cover our strategies, why lead nurturing is not a thing. We cover what kind of buyers are we, our top book recommendations, and we just go really deep on what are the lessons in terms of mindset that has helped us most along the way. It's a good, lighthearted podcast that I think you'll enjoy. See you inside. All right, what's up? What you got?
I think every podcast is just fighting for our life to get the ball rolling. But once the ball's rolling, it's actually pretty good. Once the ball's rolling, we usually can just riff for like 45 minutes to an hour pretty well. I think pushing it down the hill is a little tough sometimes.
The other one was 2 hours long when we met. That was nice.
Yeah, in person's a cheat code.
Yeah.
So easy.
We didn't even look at each other. We're just next to, like, it was just like the same thing, except there was somebody breathing to our side.
Literally so easy to just sit there in person because it flows better, you know?
Yep. Okay. What you got?
So I posted, we're on a new vibe, posted one of the first, actually it is the first podcast that's been uploaded to X with timestamps, Lex Friedman / Tucker Carlson style. Did pretty well. I didn't expect anything of it because I was just like, let me just post it because I have the file, but it did pretty well. It got 2,500 views on X. Pretty good. And like 24 likes and a bunch of comments.
Dude, that got more views than my stuff on YouTube.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we get, I mean, it makes sense too, though. I have 20,000 followers and more people are just, I'd say our audience is the majority on X in terms of numbers, but it is pretty cool. I think they're pushing video, which is nice. This is like an interesting conversation. I'm always a fan of, on any social media, whenever they drop a new feature, I always recommend to use it. Like a lot of people don't realize that when these platforms push new features, they incentivize you, they incentivize you without even saying it, to use the new features because the success of the feature is important to them. So it's almost like you get like a little boost every time something new comes out. That's something I've noticed with every platform. Is like for X, for example, as soon as they started allowing spaces, for example, people started doing spaces and it just huge blew up. And then when they start allowing new video features and you start doing video and you start blowing up. And I think anytime there's a new feature allowed on a platform, their goal is to get people indoctrinated into that feature because they want people to use it. So they're actually going to push you if you're using it. Remember when long form posts came out? Everybody was like, long form posts are the new thing. They're better than threads. Obviously now it's evened out, I'd say. But I think when they're new, it's like the platform gives you a little boost because they want you to use the new stuff.
You know what I found? It's when I post links, it doesn't really hurt my reach that much. I mean, my reach is nothing special. I get a few likes per post. But posting links just it hasn't affected me negatively, at least on X, not an issue. I think I've heard more of it being a bad thing on LinkedIn. X is pretty good. Have you found something similar?
I think it's like one of those things, it's kind of like the same logic I use for features. Whereas with features, I'm like, with new features, I always want to use the new features. I think with things that when my logical brain tells me not to do it, I just don't do it. Like I don't do links because I don't want to give it a chance to hide my post. You know what I mean? So like I try to just not do the things that would logically make the platform mad at me. And then I try to do the things that would logically make the platform happy with me. That's usually how I think with things. And that's how we do client content too. It's like, what's going to make this thread pop? What's going to make people stay on it longer? What's going to make people engage? Like pretty much just asking ourselves those questions and then answering those questions with tactics.
Nice. Want to switch gears on this. You know how some people, for some reason, we take I know, well, the reason is because it's comfortable to have rules and set definitions of how we behave. But there are some rules that people are like, if you break this rule, you're going to die. An example is like 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, right? That's like, if you don't do that, you're going to be weak forever. And then like, I've been doing some experiments for myself and it's like, I feel pretty good. Haven't lost much muscle mass. So with less than 1 gram less than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So it's like, maybe is that rule true or not? So there's a few others. Like if you post a link, you're going to die. Like you're going to like go into oblivion and it's not going to work. Not really. And another one that I've been recently getting into, and I'm talking about this because I just had a call where this was relevant, is a friend who's a health coach about lead nurturing. He said that, everybody thinks that you need to wait for long to make an offer. He said, bro, I used to have an indoctrination sequence. They got it on me last summer. It converted 0 people. The moment I started making offers, just as soon as people joined the list, I converted 2 people in the past week. So I'm thinking maybe this whole lead nurturing thing is one of those rules that people never question because they think it's gospel, but it might not be true because in my experience, the longer you wait, the harder it is for people to become paid clients. That's what I found. The more of your free content people consume from you, the harder it is for them to pay. So I've been questioning myself, what rules do I believe in that are not true? And it has allowed me to like come up with many different scenarios that I wouldn't have thought about before. What do you think about like any of those, like protein or emails or whatever?
I just had this conversation yesterday with Julia. She was telling me about the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I'm like, isn't it? I could have swore somebody said it was actually 0.8 and everyone just starts rounding up to 1. And I'm like, there's so many of these rules. I don't know. I try to get off the whole rule thing lately. I'm on your side with this where I'm just like, I feel like rules were meant to be broken and the rules are usually constraints made by somebody who's incentivized. So it's like, I try not to do them. One thing I did for myself, like for example, is the whole build your email list thing. I kind of jumped off that rule, but now I'm kind of back on it and I'm back on like the basic funnel. I actually agree with you where the more of your free stuff people consume, they're definitely more likely to not stay with you because they're usually just consumers. And they're just going to go consume more content. So I think it's actually smart to have an email funnel because it's so low barrier and you can start to basically put them in your funnel off of like one piece of content. Whereas if you go straight from something I thought about is if you go straight from content to paid, you don't have anywhere to capture them in that huge abyss between like if you have top of funnel, it's a piece of content and bottom of funnel is your $5,000, $10,000 offer. You have nothing that fills the abyss. Right? You don't have your $100 workshops. You don't have your Like Saying Cash newsletter. You don't have anything in between to capture people between because not everybody's just going to jump from content to that huge ticket buy. And now you're giving them a chance to basically keep consuming content before falling to your highest ticket product. So I do think it's good to have like a structured funnel that they can kind of go on a journey that you can take them on at different levels.
The way I think about it is leads don't speed up, they slow down. And interest doesn't grow, it shrinks. The moment you sign up to somebody's newsletter, you read it, but a year after you don't. It's because your interest shrinks. Same thing with your leads. Somebody opted into your list today. It sounds wild, but you're more likely to convert that person than the guy you've been nurturing for a year because that person's pain is more recent. It's wild to me and it goes against a lot of the rules I thought. But then I thought about it, it's like a wedding, right? So
that's so true.
You go to weddings, right? And then everybody knows that the wedding is it's not so much for the people getting married, it's for people to mingle among the people who are invited, right? That in the weddings is where you find somebody who you will have a wedding with in the future. Anyway, so you meet someone, you meet this beautiful lady, you have a wonderful night, and then maybe you're not going to meet up ever again. You're not going to see each other ever again, or the likelihood might be much lower. There is a chance that you have a higher likelihood of sealing the deal, converting the sale that night because emotions are high, because the interest is high, and because leads don't speed up, they slow down than if you wait. It's a guy that comes in the hospital bleeding and he doesn't want an indoctrination sequence on what the hospital does. He just wants something that stops the bleeding. And this is why I broke up with lead nurturing. It's just not real. I don't think it's real. Or maybe it is, but from big companies, Coca-Cola, do lead nurturing. If you're going to do private equity, do lead nurturing. But Coca-Cola doesn't send $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 coaching packages. So maybe it's not the thing for us.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily that it doesn't exist. I just think I think a lot of people think everything applies to them. So I think like when someone hears lead nurture, they're like, oh, I need to lead nurture. But they don't ask themselves, do I specifically need to lead nurture? Because you might not. You could answer, like for you've answered that question. It's like, not really. And I actually agree with what you said earlier is every time I join a newsletter, I usually only read like the first or second one I get. And then after that, I'll usually never read it again. And then eventually I just unsubscribe. So that if it was actually direct response in like the first 1 or 2 emails, I might have actually clicked on the offer. I bet most people who subscribe to these newsletters don't even end up knowing that there's an offer because they just got nurtured so long that they didn't even know an offer exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the guy. It's like you're friend zoning yourself, and like people and the subscribers are like the girl that's not getting hit on by the guy that wants to be with her. He's such a nice guy. oh, this guy's such a nice guru. He's always giving value, never asked for anything. But no, not really.
I actually have a good example of this practically. I was just doing like a launch sequence for emails, and I was looking at it was like a template that a friend sent me, and it had 5 templates. The first template was, or the back 4 templates were all direct response. Like when I say direct response, for those that don't know, like you make an offer in the email, etc. The first email was not, it had no offer. The first email of the launch sequence was like, come back tomorrow to this email, and basically trying to like build hype, be like, come back tomorrow for an offer. And I deleted that one because in my logical, I'm not an email guru, but in my mind, I was like, why would I tell them to come back tomorrow and then just expect them to come back tomorrow? I feel like if I send this, I'm going to get like 300 unsubscribes anyway. I'm just going to lose the opportunity to give them an offer. So I actually deleted that one, and we ended up running only the 4 out of the 5, and it did really well. It converted like 10 to 20 people. So it was pretty cool.
Just make the offer, man.
Yeah.
People won't be like, oh my God, tomorrow he said he was going to give me the secret.
Oh my God, yeah.
To the marketing funnel. Let's go. Like, stay tuned for tomorrow's email, boys. It's going to be a doozy.
Just set my reminder on my phone. Reminder on my phone. I can't wait to get sold something.
It's so.
I think it's just it's a little old school, you know?
It's so pointless. Like, we just accept all these rules that, I don't know, man. Like, it has just become kind of gospel, and we never question them. So, like, I think it was Ryan Reynolds that said, people in LA are so afraid of gluten that I'm pretty sure you can rob a store if you just hold a piece of bread. Like, that's what he that's what he said. And then it's like, oh yeah, gluten is bad. But then, you know, like, I go to Europe and people have cake for dinner and they're lean and beautiful. So maybe gluten isn't that bad. Were there any beliefs that you had that were kind of silly growing up, marketing, non-marketing related, that you were like, as an adult, this is bullshit?
I used to get told all the time, this is like really random, but I used to get told all the time that I was the pickiest eater. And like growing up, I was really picky. I didn't want to eat certain things. And all my family knows me as the picky eater. And then I feel like now that I'm older, everyone's a picky eater. I feel like it was bullshit. It was like, you have to eat everything. Like, stop being a picky eater, like blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, I feel like everyone I know is like, has their diet and is picky eater. So I think it's like, maybe I was ahead of the curve on that, but I think, I don't know if you come from a Hispanic family, I feel like, you know, like you have to eat all your food or you're not getting up or anything like that.
All of
and
it.
I feel like as an adult, I've realized that you should just eat till you're full and you're done. And like,
Oh, you said that.
Yeah.
You said that. I thought that was really based. I'm like, I eat when I'm full and I'm done. I'm an adult.
Yeah, like you have leftovers, like, you know, there's people starving. You got to eat it all. I'm like, what? Like, I'm going to force feed myself and become obese? That's probably why it's probably an America thing. It's probably an America thing that you have to clean your plate. I think that was a big one for me.
Yeah. Like for me, caffeine, you know, they were like, don't drink caffeine too late. Like, it's going to mess up with your sleep. Bro, I sleep amazing. I feel great. And I take my 4 p.m. Americano, feeling like $1 million. So it's all these rules that, they're so stupid, man. Like,
that's crazy. We have the opposite experience. Like, I grew up.
See, that's what you believe in, bro, but it's all mindset.
It's the energy. Everyone,
it's the energy.
Everyone around me growing up drank so much coffee. So I was like, I can drink so much coffee. And I got to 3 a day, and then it ruined my sleep. Now I cut back to 1 a day. Oh my God. I'm asleep by 9 p.m. every night now, I swear. 9, if it's 10, I'm so tired. But like 8:30, I could be in bed. And it's like, because I only have 1 cup of coffee at like 5 or 6 a.m. So I guess I'm the opposite of you.
Well, there you go.
One of us is wrong.
Or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe we're both right. I've been thinking about this mantra a lot. There are no wrong answers. There are only right and more right. One time on Twitter. Let me explain this here. It sounds stupid, but it's
this is cope. You're only
it's
right
not,
or
no,
more
shut
right.
up. It's not cope.
This is cope when you're wrong. You're like, no, I'm right. You're just more right. This is so cope.
Shut up, bro. Okay, let me explain. So one time, and this is a good example of like well-bait. One time, I sent out a post. If anybody wanted to work with me, they can DM me. Guy with 1,000 followers shows up, has made 9 figures selling shoes online. He has 1,000 followers online and only talks about poker. So I pitch a 25K offer. He's like, yeah, I'm in. totally cool because the guy makes a ton of money, right? And one of the things I like the most is that I got a chance to be on a few calls with him, and I said, what are some of like really good business advice that you think are applicable to everyone? And he said, listen, bro, in every problem, you're always going to have three options. Option A or B are going to trip you up because you might want to go this way or that way. But both are okay. The only wrong choice is option C, not choosing, because then you're stagnant and you're always kind of in that what if limbo. So now I realize like both answers are right. Let's say you're trying to get fit, right? Should you cut or should you bulk? Well, whatever you want, right? If you cut, you're going to look better. If you bulk, you're going to have more muscle. The kind of shitty area is where you maintain, even though you're training because you're working your ass off, but you're not really growing anything or getting leaner. Like the wrong decision is actually not A or B. It's not choosing. And that changed my life.
Wow.
It's good, right?
So true, bestie.
It's good, right?
It's good.
Okay. You still think I'm Kobe, but let me ask you, what is one thing that a mentor, whatever, somebody has told you that it was a clear before and after of how you view the world?
That's a tough one. It's going to sound corny, but it was I learned this when I was like 19. It was the more you learn, the more you earn. I used to think it was so like, no, that's not true. I'm like, everyone has to be doing this some sort of cheat code or some sort of easy way. And then I think once I really dove into that, I was like, shit, I really do just got to buy courses. Actually just learn and read books and shit. And once I did all that enough, it just kind of worked out. That's probably the mantra.
Okay, I'm going to go full on Marcos because Marcos recommended we talk about more basic content sometimes. So, Marcos, what are your top book recommendations?
Oh my God. Book recommendations?
And I'll go with mine later.
I'd say I'm a stories person, so we're definitely going to have two different sides. One of my top books right now is Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. That one was that's everything. That's the best. I love that book. Made in America, Sam Walton. I love that one. Honestly, the first book I ever read as an entrepreneur it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but it wasn't the original. It was actually Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the Cash Flow Quadrant. So that was the first business book I read. That one actually was sick for me. It really changed my perspective in terms of just money. And then probably the fourth big one that's off the top of my head. It's just curveball. Not a lot of people know this one. Mastery by George Leonard, which is essentially all about, it's from the perspective of an Aikido master, but it's all about mastery and what it actually looks like and what mastering a skill actually looks like.
Talk to me about that one. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that one's interesting. So it's what a lot of people think of how you ever seen those corny graphics where it's what people think it looks like, what it actually looks like. It's like that, but it's actually the realistic version. So it's I'll do it with my fingers. It's what mastery actually looks like is it's very, very, it's never really a J curve. People think it's this J curve and it's this thing, or it's this. It's not either of those. It's actually just a straight line up. And then it goes a little bump up, which is you're usually hit these milestones, right? Where you do something. So think you're just grinding up in terms of skill, and then it's a little bump up and it's a little bump down below the previous. And then it's back to grinding up. And it's a little bump up and a little bump down and then grinding up. And it's actually the most long and brutal process. And you usually have little wins where you think you are you're at the top of the world, and you have these little losses in the grand scheme that you think you're at rock bottom. But then once you recover from both of those little win and little loss, you're back at the middle, but your new middle is much higher than your previous middle. So it's just a slow grind up where you're at this constant higher high, higher low. It's a great book though. I highly recommend it. It's not that long.
Nice.
No one really talks about it on the internet. I don't even know where I found it.
The only place you can find it is in the Likes and Cash podcast.
Likes and Cash podcast.
Hit that like button and subscribe. Let's go. Okay, yeah. Mine. I think I like reading autobiographies because it's weird. Sometimes when I read books that are just advice books, my heart starts pounding faster because I get kind of anxious. It's I feel like I'm missing out on a lecture and something is leaving me behind. I don't like it. So I only pretty much read autobiographies, which makes it easy. So I enjoy Breathe by Rickson Gracie. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. Also, by the way, I read stuff depending on what's relevant to my life at the moment, because I just find that it's more interesting and you're going to be more involved that way. So there's a piano right there, right? And I thought it would be cool to learn some piano, right? But I didn't want to learn like, common songs that I'm like kind of bored. So I looked up, because I love The Legend of Zelda, easy piano songs. And that became more enjoyable. I actually did like it, right? So it's a good idea to read things that are relevant. At the time I was doing jiu-jitsu, that was relevant. Red Notice by Bill Browder talks about the privatization of the Soviet Union. Awesome book. But not only because of the story, but because it'll teach you how to like write with intrigue and keep you going. That book, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not a reader, I don't like to read, you read that one, you actually do like to read, because it's like cotton candy. It's actually quite entertaining. Feels really nice. So there's that one. My Life in Advertising by Claude Hopkins, one of the greatest advertisers of all time. That's an awesome book. And yeah, those are pretty much it. Like, those are pretty good books that I like. So
I like it. I'm actually I go to a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu studio now. I train under Rillion Gracie and Hogan Gracie. I'm pretty cool now.
How's it going?
Honestly, yesterday was pretty brutal. It's always pretty brutal, but it's like a good brutal. I actually enjoy it, but I'm also haven't really done like a ton of live rolling, so I guess I'll get back to you when I'm really getting fucked up. Like when I'm really getting my ass kicked.
Like what about it is brutal now?
Honestly, the biggest brutal part right now is just like the joints getting pulled every time I go. It's like I always come home with sore elbows. Just like so.
Elbow.
Actually, yesterday, yeah, because we've been doing. I guess yesterday specifically, we did like a lot of arm bars, but I also cramped up so bad yesterday I was doing like a triangle, and my leg was like, it cramped up so bad. It's like a different kind of fitness. So
yeah,
it's definitely
it's weird.
It's uncomfortable. But I made this tweet. I wanted to bring it up, and I want to go back to the mastery thing too. But this tweet that I made, yesterday. I don't know if have you seen the video going around of Mark Zuckerberg talking about
the Apple Vision Pro?
Yeah. So he's talking about the Apple Vision Pro. He basically just sits down for 4 minutes and says, my product's better and this is why. And it's just like such a base Chad video. It's like real marketing. But I made this tweet. I was like, Zuck became 10 times more likable once he learned to beat people up. And it's so true. It's like before he was like doing all of like the fighting stuff, he was just such like an unrelatable kind of, everyone used to call him a lizard.
Me too.
Because he was actually a lizard. Now he's like kind of base Chad, very relatable guy. It's like, I guess there's something to be said about learning to fight. So I thought that was pretty cool. Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I've seen some of it. I like Zuck's idea. Like I like of him being relatable. But I recently came up with another heuristic. I think that being relatable doesn't sell as much as being the man. I think people like aspirational people more than relatable people. I feel that people like the Andrew Tate more than the Sam Sulek types. If you could like max out on both stats, I think the aspirational one would perform way better than being relatable. Well, actually, Sam Sulek is the man. Like, have you seen the guy shirtless? Like, come on. Like, look
he's pretty big.
Yeah, he's pretty big. He does hit the weights. So there's a lot of obsession, I think, in the coaching consulting space of being relatable, being one of the people. And I think it's a waste of time. I think it's way better to be the man, like mapping out the life you want to live or you actually live, and showing people why with sheer competence that is a better life. And it's not really flexing. It's not flexing if it's true, right? So you just show how you live, and then that becomes the marketing, because the marketing is just, you don't say it, you show it, and showing will always have a higher percentage. Like, it will always work better than just telling. So I think being relatable is the wrong goal, but being aspirational is the right goal. And I've been implementing that, showing people how I make the money I make, and I work 3 hours a day, and it's been working really well.
I like that. I want to go back to this mastery thing, because I found the graphic where it was basically the differences in people when it comes to like actually building. We're going real beginner now. So there's 4 different ones. There's the dabbler. So we've all been the dabbler. I was the dabbler. I don't know if you've been the dabbler. I feel like you had a quicker come up story, but maybe not. The dabbler essentially is the person who just jumps from thing to thing. And what theirs looks like is it's usually like a straight line, a big jump up, and it's like a violent vortex back to zero. That's what the dabbler does. That was me when I was doing like drop shipping and then my first 2 agencies and day trading and TikTok. and you just dabble. You get like that kind of dopamine hit because you get a little bit of success, and then you just crash and burn because you realize all the things that's wrong with your business model when nothing was wrong with it. You just didn't stick it through. That's the dabbler. Then you have, this is funny, you have the obsessive. So the obsessive, similar to the dabbler, straight line, jump up, and then it's a little bit down, and then it's a violent spiral sideways until it crashes down. So this is the person who, they don't just dabble. They think they're dabbling, but they get obsessed, but they never actually succeed. And then they crash just way later because they were so obsessed, they didn't realize what was actually going on. And then they fail like crazy. Then you have what's called the hacker. So this is the person who does everything, like they try to take the quick way out for everything, the easy way out, the easy money. This person's almost like a master. That's like they go up, back, up, but what happens is they stagnate because they didn't actually build any real foundation at the beginning to do a real mastery curve. And then you have the actual mastery, which is called the path. It's like the path of endless climax, and that's the one I spoke of earlier, where you get little raises, little downs every time. So I thought that was interesting. I feel like I've been all of them. I don't know about you if you went straight to mastery or not, but I've been all of them. I've like the
failed
obsessive.
in all of them too. Yeah. And a clear example of what you just said about what was the one that had some success, but they didn't have the foundations. What was that?
That was the hacker.
Okay, so I was the hacker. When I was playing volleyball, dude, I've been playing volleyball I played volleyball for 12 years. It's a lot. But I'm just as good as somebody who has played for 1 year or 2. Like, if you train for 3 years, you're probably better than me, even though I trained for 12. Because I was the hacker. Like, you know what I got really good at? I got really good at jumping, and I got really good at spiking. Like, I could do that. But if you throw a ball at me, I wouldn't be able to receive it. Like, my arms were jello. Like, I was such an unreliable defender. And teams would target me, they would know I was such a bad defender, throw me the ball, and that was it. Like, that would be game over, right? And because I didn't have that foundation, I always found a camp. Yeah, I could spike the ball, but that was only on training.
Well, it's funny.
I couldn't do anything during the match.
Well, this is good. This is good too, because some of the explanations for hacker are you don't have a reason to move from what was like known to you, what was the easy way. And it's also the hacker is usually the person who gets the hang of something, but then they happily just stay in plateau forever. That's kind of like what describes a hacker. So like for you, you were good at one thing and you kind of got good at it. And then you never actually went and learned how to spike in the game and go and do all the shit that would have actually taken you to that next level. That's why you plateaued.
And that's a content creator that focuses on engagement and never sales. They're so afraid of focusing on a new skill like monetizing because they already got good at getting engagement that they just spiral down or they stagnate forever.
What's going to go viral? What's going to go viral? And then they just stagnate at their income because the virality gets you to maybe a certain level of a certain level income, but it's never scalable because you're just caring about what's going viral. And then the next one, so like obsessive, is basically someone who goes full throttle and then their engine crashes. It's like, I don't know if you've ever went full throttle at anything, but I did that for like, basically that was me for day trading. I did it for like 4 years, just full throttle day trade crash, full throttle day trade crash. And I never actually realized that I just had to get like 1% better every day. Have you ever had any?
What did crashing look like?
Crashing usually, it's funny. It's not like this like metaphor. I literally just blew my account. Like I would basically get obsessive. I would build my account to like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and then I would lose it all on one trade. I would just crash because I was so obsessed that I just didn't realize all I had to do is like make 1% better every day. And I would just bet my whole account and just lose all the money. And then I would basically go do some other biz op to make money back and then put it into trading and then get obsessive and then crash. I did that like 4 times.
At what point where you were like, I don't think this is working?
Honestly, my really good friend Don Vo, who is actually a successful trader, one of the best in the world, he was like, at some point, you just get sick of your own shit. And that was how he got out of the trading bad cycle, the hacker cycle, and the obsessive cycle, and he became the mastery curve for trading. My version of getting sick of my own shit was, I'm going to be done trading. I'm going to go do a business. So I basically quit trading and moved on to business. So I got sick of my own shit.
Fair. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like, not with that specifically, but kind of similar. Like, to me, for the whole Lexing Cash thing, like, people are like, oh, that's a good model. And I was like, yeah, it was also kind of PTSD because, what was it, from 2021 to the end of 2022, like December 2021, December 2022, I look at my bank account and I was supposedly a 6, close to 7-figure entrepreneur. And there was the same money from 2021 to 2022. Even though I hit like really big revenue numbers, like what seemed to me to be big revenue numbers at the time, the profit was still the same. And numbers didn't lie to me, man. And I thought, I'm a fraud. I'm completely fucking this up. And I had to make the profit move because, like your good friend Don said, you get tired of your own shit. And that's really true.
Yeah. So the last one is we talked about the hacker and we talked about the obsessive. The last one's the dabbler. And that is essentially someone who's a jack of all trades and master of none. Someone who could basically do everything like pretty good, but they never actually get really good or actually good at anything. I don't know if you've ever had anything like this, but this was basically me just like idea hopping for 5 years. I've started so many different businesses, like 2019 affiliate marketing, drop shipping, fucking agency, day trading. 2020, I did Amazon. I started my second agency. I bought Ryan's old course. Like, I was such a hopper. And I basically would just I had like a little bit of skill at everything. I could kind of write a blog, could kind of do affiliate marketing. I knew everything about day trading, but I never actually did it. I knew how to start an agency and get clients, but I never actually got clients. So it's just like, I knew everything, but I didn't actually do anything. So I became the jack of all trades and I was the dabbler, and it just failed.
It's like, you can make anything work, but you can't make everything work. And
Right.
those are those kind of platitudes that you're like, whatever, bro. But it's so true, man. Tweet Hunter, right? I had a software. The software was like, I had a great team, could have made a lot of money, really good margins because it is software, but I had to start a Twitter growth service. I had to start an agency. I had to focus on engagement and make a subscription model where I got $5 per customer. That fucked me up. Like, if I were to just stay and learn software, I would be 2 or 3 times with as much money as I have right now. But I had to do everything, right? I have to go through the jack of all trades. And the jack of all trades, it's not that he is skilled at many things, it's that he is unskilled at choosing. He is not capable of looking at 10 options and choosing one. He cannot press the delete button, and that's what fucks him up. And I say this with a lot of like strength, because when you said that, it triggered me, bro, because I was that guy. And I hated it because I could have made so much more money if I just stick to one thing, but I was incapable of saying no. Like, that guy is skilled at everything except saying no. And if he got a skill at that, it would be so much better.
Yeah, I agree. I also think a lot of people misinterpret it too with the choosing one thing, and I think it gets misinterpreted everywhere because I feel as though you have to choose one thing to start. But I think every entrepreneur in the world at some point realizes that they've built their thing and they have a real foundation, and now what they can essentially expand on that one thing. And I think there's a fine line between being the dabbler and being someone who's adding layers to their product and adding a moat around their business. It's like, for example, right? Like, nobody says Mark Zuckerberg has shiny object syndrome for starting VR. You know what I mean? He's essentially just adding a new line and expanding and creating a moat on Facebook and Meta. Nobody's saying like, I don't think JK has shiny object syndrome for doing workshops. I think you're just adding another layer to your business and you're adding a moat around it. So you know what I mean? And I think there's a fine line there. So I think you have to pick one thing to start, and then you have to know the difference between jumping to something else and what's actually looks like expanding and stuff like that. Because I think people get them mixed up where they think that they just have to do literally one thing forever. But I think you're building one overall business, and within that business, there can be multiple things once you have foundation for different things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's, to get deeper in that, it's maybe one business. Because there's a lot of, like, business for me doesn't mean the same thing as business to you, and offer to you doesn't mean the same as offer to me. But the way I look at it is one offer. So for me, the way I have my offer structured is kind of like a flight. So I have the same flight that goes to the same destination, but you can choose to upgrade within the flight. You can go economy, premium economy, or first class. So I have the cash creators. They have the normal package, but they can also pay more if they want more access to me, or pay more for an invite-only group. We all have the same goal, but people can upgrade their access. And I will also sell kind of slices of cash creators to people, like small workshops, if people wanted just a bit of that access. So to me, it's not about one thing. It's about build one offer with different levels of access. If you want to iterate over what's already there. And that's how I kind of cured my itch to always be changing and tweaking and doing new things. I would do new things, but as long as they were applicable to the old thing. I would be able to add or tweak to the offer that was already there. I wasn't allowed to start new things. It was only new things inside the old thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's like, I think that's what separates the good from the greats. Like the greats, the Elon Musk, the Zucks, etc. They know how to kind of iterate and add to their current thing. Like Tesla has so many different layers to it, and Facebook has so many different layers to it. And now me and you, we're creating layers to our business. And I think ultimately, as long as it's increasing the moat around your business and providing value to your customers and kind of increasing the lifespan, I think it's correct. But I don't think anyone really talks about it. Everyone usually either says focus on one thing or do something else. But no one's ever talking about iterating within your own company and adding layers and doing all these different things. So yeah, I think it's a really nuanced conversation because every business is so different, right? And like also every business has different ceilings at different places. You know what I mean? Like your capacity for your coaching program is different from somebody else's capacity in their coaching program. So you might iterate at a completely different revenue level than someone else. You know what I mean? Like if my capacity is 4 because I'm only doing one-on-one or 2 or something like that, like I clearly need to iterate somewhere quicker than someone that has a capacity of 10. So I think there's a lot of nuance involved.
The difference between
high-level conversations.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like you were talking about like good to great. The difference between bad to good is quite small, but the difference between good to great is fucking astounding. Like
yeah, because I don't think I'm great.
Losing weight, bro. It's like losing I lost 40 pounds. It was so easy. And losing the last 10 or something is such a pain. Like it's so much harder. But that's the difference between having kind of a lean body to having a 6-pack.
That's so true.
Right? But that small difference, it's so tough. Like between having a product that is okay, it's easy. But one that's like truly great, it takes so long. But
I'd say the same thing for us. Like for like my business, for example, I'd say going from call it 10K a month to like 50 to 60K a month it felt so much easier than now trying to go from 50 to 60 to 100 to 200. It's so much fucking harder. And there's not exactly the 50 to 200K a month course out there. You know what I mean? So I think part of the reason it's so hard is because the knowledge required to do it is not nearly as accessible or even in existence because each business is so unique at this level. I think going 0 to 10, 0 to 20, 0 to 50 it's a lot easier to teach. For example, you could teach someone that very easily, but it's very difficult to teach someone to do something that's never been done in their industry. You know what I mean? It's like if someone comes to you and they're, I don't know, a basketball coach, like they coach basketball coaches. I saw someone on Twitter who follows me. He coaches high school people how to get scholarships, like D1 scholarships, right? Like his business at first is very simple to get to, maybe 10 or 20 or 30K a month. But how many people have done it at a 100 to 200K a month scale? The answers are so much harder to acquire. And this is kind of what you said when you were in that, I forget which mentorship it was, but you were basically saying that like at the highest level, it's more like therapy when you get coaching because they're not going to have your specific answers. It's more like they give you the support and the mindset to find the answers on your own. And I think that's why it's so hard. So I think that's probably the same thing.
Yeah, it is. At the highest level, like the more you grow, the less tactical the advice is.
Right.
Because it's more mindset, it's more beliefs, it's more traits, not so much like tactics to do.
Yeah.
What makes it so hard to go from 50 to 100 that's different from 0 to 50, even though if I'm looking at just from a numbers angle, it's the same increment in revenue? What makes it so much harder?
Talent. It's all about talent. It's so hard to find talent. Like I was listening to it was a Mr. Beast interview, and he was saying that how he was able to scale was he basically clones himself. So he has people follow him around until they can basically do and make decisions exactly as he would. And I think that is hard and takes time because I think sourcing talent is not really a skill that you're taught, especially as like an early entrepreneur. So I think for an agency, building the team is what gets you to that level. And it's very difficult to build a team without guidance. And it's a lot of trial and error. And it's a lot of like, when do I hire someone? When do I bring this person on? What are they doing? How much do I pay them? You know what I mean? Are they a boy or a girl? What time zone? What's their end of day report? I don't fucking know. I'm making this shit up as we go. And you gotta like, you know? So it's like, that stuff is so different than 0 to 50K a month, where it's like sales and fulfillment. It's like marketing, sales, fulfillment. Yeah, you don't say, brother.
Dig it. I have a different answer to that. I thought that 0 to 1 million was quite fast in Tweet Hunter and Cash Traders. That was quite fast. 0 to 1 million a year, right? But 1 to 3 was fucking impossible. It was so hard. Like, and I haven't. Did I break it? I broke it like one month. It was like 250K plus, but then like that was my max. I couldn't go above that. And then I think, like I'm trying to give you the map to a place that I haven't been to. But from the little sneak peek that I got, it was not so much about getting more clients, but getting every client to be worth more. It was about increasing LTV, not so much sales and fulfillment, but you had to add a third variable, which was retention, and I guess a fourth one, which was extracting the most revenue you can out of one unit, one person, one client, one whatever, right? It was about getting people to stay for longer and pay you more. And that was a different skill. That was super hard. Like Tweet Hunter, when I was there, 1 million took us less than a year or something. But after that, it became a wildly different game about getting people to stay. It required us focusing much more on product and acquisition. And I'm pretty sure these guys make more than that now, but I'm guessing that was where they won. It was about getting people to stay.
Nice. I wonder if there's anyone listening who gets value out of this conversation.
I hope.
We need a poll. Maybe in the comments, like, where are you at with your business? I'm so curious because I have no idea who, like, in terms of business level, like, who listens to the podcast. Do you?
Not really. I mean, I see the comments, but I know that. Do you agree with me on this one? Oh, this is gonna hurt viewership. Let's go. The people who comment are never the people who buy. The people who buy are not the people who comment. Do you find that?
That might be true. I don't know if anyone.
A lot of the people who became my clients, I've never seen them. Just like, like we met today, right?
Yeah.
And that's just what I found to be true.
I mean, that's fair. We have a school group, and it's like a low ticket thing. And every time someone joins, I'm like, I have no idea who you are.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, every time someone joins the group, I'm like, I've never seen that name in my life. I think 3 people have joined where I'm like, I know that person. It's funny. You're kind of right there. That's interesting.
Yeah,
that you're right.
There you go. So who's listening? The right people, Marcos.
Yeah.
That's who's listening to the podcast.
And I will say, when we launched, I was like, oh, so many of these people that I see all the time are going to join. Like, all these people that are like, I see in my audience are going to join. Nope. It's all people that were like lurking. So you actually just like hit the nail on the head. That's an interesting one. That might have to be an email for that. It needs to be a JK email. It's usually the lurkers. It's the lurkers who buy.
It's the people you never think about. Like, the longer somebody consumes your free content, the longer it takes for them to become paid clients. Like, often they just don't interact. They just buy it.
I don't know about you, but I usually don't. Like, what kind of buyer are you? But like, the kind of buyer I am is I don't need to be nurtured. I don't need to be convinced. I'm either buying or I'm not. And I don't go anywhere where things are sold unless I'm going to buy. I'm not a browser. Maybe that's the word for it. I'm not a browser. I'm like a buyer. I went to the store for like a Valentine's Day gift, and I already knew what I was buying. I walk in, grab it, buy it, leave. There's no one needs to sell me. You know what I mean? Same thing with courses. Like, I mean, you were on a sales call with me 2 years ago. Like, I came to that call and I was already going to buy. I don't need to be closed. I hate sales scripts. Like, if I get on a call and they start doing a sales script, I'm like, I just went from wanting to buy to not wanting to buy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm that kind of buyer. And same thing with emails. Like, I don't really subscribe unless I'm considering already buying something. And then, like you said, if they're not selling something right away, I'm usually just like, all right, I'm just going to unsubscribe. So that's just, maybe I'm a high intent buyer, or like I don't know what that's called, but I'm definitely not a browser, someone who just goes and like looks around and compares. I don't do any of that shit.
I will compare, but I will compare because I'm like, I don't want to be disrespectful to the person selling it. So it's not like I will get on many sales calls and ask them a bunch of questions. So I'll kind of do my due diligence by asking other people, but I just don't want to upset the person. I just don't want to be a tire kicker and them know about it.
Yeah. You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, I don't want to be that guy.
Especially if someone you look up to, you don't want to get on the call and be like, Then you see them in person, like your nightmare scenario, and oh, that's the guy that didn't buy.
Oh, kill
Probably
me,
has no
bro.
money.
Bro, like there's a lot of people that make so much more money than me and that I have a lot of respect for, but the way they talk is just, I just can't take it. It's like, I know what you're saying is valuable, but it just doesn't click with me. Like, they will be too woo-woo, positivity, make a change in the world, just add value. You know, it's like, talk about money, bro. Like, let's talk about that. So a lot of that is by feel. Like, if when that person, it sounds like really obvious, but when that person speaks and I understand and it resonates with me deep, that's a good reason that I should buy.
Yeah. I'm just like, I think I respond more to marketing. Maybe that's it. It's like, for me, is I usually can tell from someone's content if their product's going to be good. I don't know about you, but I just like, if I see someone's content and I'm like, you know what it is? Maybe it's because I'm B2B now. Maybe I'm just not B2C anymore. Like me as an agency owner, right? If I see somebody that makes agency content and it's just like basic, you know pretty fast. Like for you as a coach, right? Like if you see content, someone's talking very basic tactics, you'll know right away because you live the business. So I think for me, maybe this is like a marketing tip that anyone can take, is if you can create content where your ideal buyer will know that it's not basic. Like if your ideal buyer has inside terms and inside jokes or whatever, like anything that they would know that the average person wouldn't, it's, you know what it is? It's whale bait. I just remembered. It's whale bait. We talked about it. This is whale bait. Your content needs to be so good in terms of your client avatar that only your client avatar will be able to see it and be like, oh, this is good. Because, for example, if I saw a piece of content now that was about like a Notion fulfillment system with like quality control for content, I'd be like, ooh, like that's cute. I love that. But if I'm at like $0 a month, I'm going to be like, this shit's ass, bro. Like, where's the sales? So I think that's what it is. It's whale bait versus fish bait.
That was a pod.
That's the pod.